ảnh gặp mọi người ở đây.
All right. Thank you so much for coming out tonight for a really important conversation about voting and the rights you have when you vote.
네, 오늘 투표 그리고 투표에 대한 유권자 권리 굉장히 중요한 내용을 다뤘기 때문에 오늘 이렇게 저녁에 참석해 주셔서 감사합니다.
Cảm ơn mọi người đã đến đây hôm nay để dự một cái buổi nói chuyện rất là quan trọng về bầu cử.
Before we get started with the main presentation, I am going to go through some live interpretation rules so that we can have a language accessible space.
실제로 PPT 프레젠테이션을 시작하기 전에요. 저희가 실시간 통역을 진행하고 있으니까 거기에 대해서 어떤 규칙들이 있는지 설명드리겠습니다.
Trước khi vào chương trình chính thì chúng tôi sẽ có một số quy tắc về thông dịch tại chỗ để cho mọi người biết.
All right, so number one, we are going to speak at a very reasonable and slow pace so that our interpreters can understand what we're saying.
네, 첫 번째 규칙은요. 저희가 누구라도 발언을 할 때는 좀 적절한 그런 속도로 말씀해 주시고 정확하게 발화해 주시면 통역사들이 알아듣는데 무리가 없겠습니다.
Trước nhất là chúng tôi sẽ nói với một tốc độ vừa phải để cho phiên dịch viên có thể dịch lại.
If you think that we are speaking too fast, you can tell us to slow down and use a hand gesture like this.
네, 누구라도 말하시는 분이 너무 빨리 말하는 것 같다. 그러면은 앉아 계시면서 이런 지금 제스처, 늘리는 거. 네, 이렇게 하시면 천천히 말해주세요. 네, 천천히. 네.
Nếu như quý vị cảm thấy chúng tôi nói quá nhanh thì xin ra dấu hiệu chúng tôi bằng cách làm giống như thế này.
Awesome. And if you are on Zoom, you can just type slow down and we will slow down.
그리고 줌으로 참석하시는 경우는요, 그 옆에 창에다 천천히 해주세요라고 타이프 쳐주시면 되겠습니다.
Nếu như quý vị on Zoom thì quý vị có thể thay cho chúng tôi là làm chậm lại thì chúng tôi sẽ chậm lại.
If we are not speaking loud enough, if we're too quiet, you can use this gesture to tell us to be louder.
그리고 화자의 목소리가 너무 작아서 잘 들리지 않을 경우에 볼륨업, 네, 이런 제스처를 취해 주시면 됩니다.
Nếu như chúng tôi nói hơi cái giọng hơi thấp tức là hơi nhỏ thì cho quý vị có thể dùng dấu hiệu như thế này để ra hiệu chúng tôi phải nói lớn lên.
And same thing on Zoom. If we need to be louder, type it out and we will be louder.
네, 마찬가지로 줌에서 참석하실 경우에는 더 크게 해주세요라고 타이프 쳐주세요.
Và on Zoom cũng vậy, nếu mà quý vị cần chúng tôi nói lớn hơn thì quý vị thay trên màn hình Zoom là hãy nói lớn lên.
Lastly, if you have any questions or you don't understand something, please tell us to stop and you can use this gesture.
그리고 이제 프레젠테이션 들으시면서 뭔지 잘 모르겠다, 이해가 안 돼, 혹은 질문이 있다. 그럴 때는 타임아웃, T 이렇게 해주시면 되겠습니다.
Nếu như quý vị có một câu hỏi gì đó hay là quý vị không hiểu thì quý vị sẽ ra dấu hiệu như thế này để time out.
And again, if you're on Zoom, you can just type stop, I have a question.
줌으로 참석하실 경우에는요, 질문 있어요, 잠깐만요, 이렇게 타이프해 주세요.
Nếu như quý vị on Zoom, quý vị có thể thay là stop, chúng tôi có câu hỏi, hoặc là xin dừng lại, chúng tôi có câu hỏi.
We want to make sure that if any things, like any needs that you have, if you have any needs, sorry, please voice them. We do not want you to suffer in silence.
제가 드리고 싶은 말씀은요, 오늘 오신 분들 중에 뭐라도 필요한 게 있다, 궁금한 게 있다, 질문이 있다, 절대 주저하지 마시고요. 알려주세요. 가만히 계시면서 이렇게 침묵하지 마시고요.
Nếu như quý vị có gì không hiểu xin thông báo với chúng tôi không có quý vị phiền lòng về bất cứ một chuyện gì.
Okay, and that is it. We are going to take a quick 2-minute break so that our Vietnamese interpreters can go back upstairs and begin, and then we'll begin the presentation.
2분 잠깐 쉬고 그동안에 저희들이 위치를 잡고 시작하겠습니다.
I'll be upstairs. I'll see you later.
To speak in Vietnamese, anyways.
Can you tell me if I'm going to that?
Yes.
Okay.
Usable. Yes, we will make those announcements. Yeah, yeah. Just gotta focus on this. But I'll let you know if you're. I have a really important question. Are you team mango? Team mango. There is only one right. Yes, that is. Thank you. Thank you. My friend posted a terrible image bashing mango's restaurant, and I said, let's leave it up to you. And here's the poll results for mine and also his.
But I like both.
Okay, fair. There was a third option.
Yeah.
Sounds like this. I came on the channel.
Could we make an announcement if everybody
Jisoo, I'm gonna need you one more time. Okay, yeah. All right. I forgot one thing is to see if people in the room can hear Jisoo through your device.
한 가지 말씀드려야 되는데 지금 강의에 참석하신 분께서 혹시 통역기 사용하시면 통역사 목소리 들리는지 확인해야 됩니다.
So Jisoo's going to speak in the microphone. If you can hear her, raise your hand.
네, 지금 제가 말하고 있는데 이 귀에 끼신 헤드셋으로 제 말이 들리시면 손 들어주세요. 들리시나요? 들리시나요?
Okay. They should all be 704. Yeah, did someone change it?
채널
I would 704.
채널 4 아니면 7번으로 맞춰보세요. 한국어.
Yes.
704? 네,
704.
채널은 704번입니다. 한국어 704.
So they're not on the right channel.
Yeah.
704.
네, 통역 기기 이용하시는 경우에요. 채널은 704, 704번 채널입니다. 채널이 맞아야 들리거든요.
Yes. And please don't touch the buttons afterwards because if you do, it will change the channel.
네, 채널을 한국어를 위해서 704로 한번 맞추신 다음에는 그 버튼을 다시 건들지 마세요. 채널이 바뀌면 또 달라져서 통역 못 들으시거든요. It is not me.
Okay, probably the channel. Okay. Whenever you're
I'll start introducing. Okay, hi, thank you guys for being so patient as we figure out our tech. It is worth all of the trouble it is to make sure that this is an accessible space. And so we're happy to do it, but apologies for those that were waiting on the Zoom or maybe we're running a little bit behind. But thank you for all of that. Okay, great. My name is Mary Ibaka. I work for the ACLU of Texas, and I'm happy to have a conversation with you all about voting. I will pause for questions, and go ahead and raise your hand if you need me to slow down or stop. The interpreters will also be communicating with me if I'm going too fast. But yeah, thank you guys for taking time in your evening to be here. And we'll go ahead and get started. So voting is the cornerstone of our democracy here and a fundamental right. Your vote is your voice in our representative government. Today, you'll learn more about finding out more about the process of exercising your right to vote, including information about eligibility, accessibility, and language accommodations. So what is the ACLU, which is the organization that I work for, along with a few of my colleagues that are here? We stand for the American Civil Liberties Union. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan civil rights organization. We've been around for almost 100 years, since 1920. And we've been here in Texas specifically since the 1930s. Our mission is to defend and expand the rights granted by the Constitution. So what we'll cover today, who is able to vote, who's able to vote by mail, what you need in order to vote, what accommodations you're entitled to, and what to do when you have issues if you're voting, or when you're voting, and important dates, and an opportunity to volunteer with us. We'll talk briefly about that at the end. There we go. So who is eligible to vote? So in order to vote in an election, you must register. And in order to be eligible to register to vote, you have to be a United States citizen. You have to be a resident of the state and the county where you're trying to vote. Here, it would be a resident of Texas and Harris County. You have to be at least 18 years old, or 17 years and 10 months when you register, but you'll be 18 on election day. And if you've been convicted of a felony and have completed your sentence, including any term of incarceration, parole, supervision, probation. Once that's finished, you are eligible to vote. Got one more slide talking a little bit more about that. I think that one's on there. Okay, well, I'll just tell you guys. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, yeah, that's okay. We'll just move on to voter registration. Yes. So in order to complete a voter registration application, you will need an address in the county you're registered in, a driver's license, a personal ID number or social security number. And once your registration is complete, you'll receive a voter registration certificate in the mail. Important to note, you can still fill out an application without a driver's license or an ID number, but you will need to show proof of a driver's license, voter certificate, or social security number when you do vote or mail-in vote. The application must be received by the county office or postmarked 30 days before an election in order for you to be eligible to vote in that election. And if you can't register yourself, a parent, a spouse, or a child may help you with the application if that person is a registered voter and has applied for a voter registration. A common question is, do you have to vote on election day? No, there are a few alternatives available. You can vote by a mail-in ballot, or you can vote in person during early voting. For this election, it will be October 23rd through November 3rd, typically 10 days where there's early voting. All right, so who is eligible to vote by mail? So Texas has pretty restrictive vote by mail laws. And so it's a little bit complicated, but we're here to help you with the process. Your application and ballot will ask for a driver's license or a social security number, and we strongly encourage people to include both numbers when they're filling out their application. In order to vote by mail, you have to have one of the following qualifications. You must be 65 years of age or older, sick or disabled, or out of the county on election day and through early vote. And you also may be due to give birth in a 3-week period before or after election day. Important to remember that there is a deadline when you can apply to vote by mail. That's going to be Friday, October 27th. Highly encourage you to do that beforehand, because you'll have to mail in the application, the county has to receive it, and then the county has to process it and mail your ballot to you, and then you'll have to mail your ballot back once it's completed. So you want to make sure that you have enough time for all of those things to happen, and the mail may sometimes be a speedy process, but there's always the case that it's running slow. I think it's important to also remember that voting from jail is possible. People who can vote from jail may still be eligible. So if somebody is detained pre-trial or for a misdemeanor. So pre-trial, it means they're waiting to go into court, they're waiting for a conviction, or if what they're charged with is a misdemeanor, not a felony. If you never had final felony convictions, unless you're discharged, and otherwise eligible, which means you're over the age of 18, you're registered to vote already, and you're a U.S. citizen. So how to vote from jail? You can do it by mail or in person. Here in Harris County, we are one of 2 counties in the state that does offer in-person voting in the jail, and we're really excited about that. And so, just a reminder that this also applies to people in prison if a felony conviction is on an appeal. So of course, the most common known option for voting is voting on election day. This election, that will be November 7th, 2023. Polls are always open on election day from 7 to 7. If you can do county-wide voting here in Harris County, which means you don't have to go to a specific voting location. You can go to your nearest one. You can go to a polling location on your way to work, on your way back. If somebody is driving you to vote, you can go to the places that's nearest them. And so that's very important to remember that it's pretty accessible on election day here in Harris County to vote at one of the many polling locations that will be open. When you do vote, you do need to take a form of ID. There are a few different forms of ID that you can use, and I'll show a picture of them after this slide. So you can use an ID issued by the Texas Department of Public Safety. That would include a Texas driver's license, an ID certificate, a Texas personal ID, or a Texas handgun license. You can also vote using an ID issued by a federal agency, such as a military ID. You can use a citizenship certificate with a photo, or you can vote with a passport. If you've ever been issued any of these IDs, you have to use it to vote. And so I highly encourage you to early vote in case you happen to not have it on you that day. You can still try again the next day. But if you come across it on election day and it's 5 p.m. and you realize you don't have your ID, you won't be sure if you have enough time to go pick it up and go vote. I think it's also important to remember that the address on your ID and the address where you're registered, they don't have to match. An example would be if you've recently moved and you registered to vote where you moved, but you didn't get a new license, that's fine, as long as you are a resident of where you're registered to vote. And your names don't also need to be an exact match. Many times when people register to vote, most of the time when people register to vote,
anyone there?
A written form.
Hello.
Of course, there's sometimes a typo when it's getting put into the system, or if you have complicated names, it may be misspelled when you're registered. So it might look different than what's on your
don't
ID.
know what's going on. I've been waiting
Some
since 4
people,
o'clock.
I have a middle name. Some people will write out their full middle name, or some people will put their initial. So it doesn't have to be an exact match. And it's very important to note, especially in very diverse rooms like these. If there's an issue, you'll still be able to vote. So these are the IDs that I just mentioned, and I'll go over them. The top left, that's what a handgun license looks like. The next one to the right, up top, is what a Texas election certificate looks like. DPS, again, DPS is the one that gives those out. The next one is an example of a military ID. And a passport. Of course, we all know, the driver's license. Sorry, I skipped around. On the very far right, that's an ID card, so it's not a driver's license, but it's still issued by DPS. The bottom right is an example of a birth certificate with a photo. And then sometimes you can, when you're applying for a passport, you can request a passport card, and that's an example of that. Very important to remember, these all have a photo attached to them. And so it's a good reminder, like if you've been issued something by the state with a photo from DPS or the US government, that's probably going to be one of these ID. You can go to the next slide. However, if you've never been issued one of those IDs, which is common, oftentimes somebody can move from out of state and they have an out-of-state driver's license, but they haven't made it to DPS to get a new license with the state of Texas on it. You can still use that to vote if you're registered. You can also use any government document that includes the name and the address. You can use your voter registration certificate. So I mentioned earlier that when you register to vote, you'll get mailed a certificate. That's an example. I'll show you a photo of that soon. You can use a current utility bill, a bank statement, a check from the government, a paycheck. You can use a certified US birth certificate. Those would be the ones without a photo, or another birth certificate, including a foreign or birth certificate. Let me show you what that looks like. Oh, I don't know where the photos. I don't think I have the photos. We'll get you a photo of what those look like. Oh, it's a couple slides down. All right, another common question that we get is what happens if your ID is expired? I recently had my photo ID expire. It was a headache to get it renewed. I had to wait 2 months for an appointment, and I finally went in and I needed all this other documentation to support it. So it's a difficult process. However, if there was an election, I still could have used my driver's license to vote. So with the exception of a US citizenship certificate, which doesn't expire, for voters aged 18 to 69, the acceptable form of photo ID may be expired no more than 4 years before being presented for voter qualification at the voting place. For voters age 70 or older, the acceptable form of photo ID can be expired for any length of time. All right, these are the photos I was talking about. So this bottom left, sorry, that is the certificate that you'll get mailed when you register to vote. It includes your name, it includes your address. It has all of the districts that you're eligible to vote in. And then you can also use a utility bill. And that's an example of a birth certificate without a photo. Yeah, I think those are both birth certificates. Yeah, I just touched on this, but yeah, the information on your ID does not need to match your voter registration, such as your address and such as the names being an exact match. So there is provisional voting when you go in person. Sometimes there's issues, but you'll still have the option to vote on a provisional ballot. So when you use it, so if you're registered to vote and your name isn't showing up, maybe there's a technical glitch, maybe the county missed something. You can also use provisional voting if you don't have an acceptable form of ID when you go to vote. That's when you would use the reasonable impediment exception, and you would vote on a provisional ballot. So provisional ballots are kept separate from general ballots, and they must be accepted before they're counted. But a very important thing to remember is leaving your ID at home is not a reasonable impediment if you have the ability to go home and get it. If you refuse to show a form of ID at the polls, you'll be allowed to cast a provisional ballot, but it may be rejected. Provisional ballots are reviewed by a voting board for acceptance and or rejection. And you'll have a notice in the mail if you do vote provisionally if it winds up getting counted. And I think typically you'll have some time to cure your ballot. Let me go to the next slide. Actually, I'm going to pause here. Well, you can go to the next slide and then I'm going to pause. Okay, so I just talked a lot about eligibility to vote and what you need to take in. The next section is if you need help voting or if you're helping others. So is there any questions about what we just went over or any issues that you've come across in the past, or you know somebody has that have been hard to navigate? And if you're on Zoom, you can drop it in the chat too. Yes.
I would like to know who are the candidates for this election? Basically, the list of candidates. Who are the candidates?
There's a wonderful guide that the league, this organization called the League of Women Voters creates. My friend over here is waving it. And so on that guide, it'll show you what is being voted on. It'll tell you information about the candidates. Along with here in Houston, city council and mayoral races, you may have a school board race. And then everybody in Texas will be voting on constitutional amendments, and they talk about that as well on that guide. It is a very big guide, but it's worth digging into. Thank you for that question. You want to get it interpreted? That'll probably be easier then.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Do you know, should I apply vote by mail every year?
Yes. If you have voted by mail in the past, you will still need to apply to vote by mail. Every year you need to apply. So let's say next year we're going to have a primary and then a general election. So that's 2 elections in 1 year. If you apply to vote by mail this year, you're gonna have to do it again next year so that you can get ballots in the mail both times. That's very important. Thank you. Are there any other questions? All right, we can move on to voter assistance. So how do you know if you're eligible to have help when you're voting assistance? A voter can receive assistance if the voter can't fill out or read the ballot. because they can't write or see due to a physical disability, or if the voter is unable to read the language that the ballot is written in. When can you receive assistance? You can receive assistance when you're filling out your application to vote by mail. You can receive assistance when you're voting by mail, and you can also receive assistance when you're voting in person at a polling location. So for assistants and interpreters who can help with applications for mail-in ballots, assistants can fill out necessary sections on an application form. For mail-in ballots or voting by mail, assistants will fill out a part of a carrier envelope. And then at a polling location, assistants have to fill out a form if you're there in person. And so the applications will have specific sections where somebody who is helping you, an interpreter, can write down their information. And they all have to confirm their relationship to the voter and a confirmation that they didn't receive payment or a benefit from assisting somebody vote. At a polling location, I think I have an example of what that oath of assistance looks like. But if you're bringing someone in, just give them a heads up. They'll have to fill out a form. And it is important to remember that it's illegal to fail to comply with these requirements when assisting someone with their vote. We can go to the next. Oh, I think this is. You go to the one before? Nope. One before. Yes, that one. Okay. So for an assistant and an interpreter, the person assisting you must read you the entire ballot, not just portions of it. And if you look at the voter guide, you know it's pretty full, so it's going to be a long ballot. They must also take an oath, unless you tell them that you don't want that specifically. They must also take an oath that they won't influence your vote or mark the ballot in a way that you don't want them to. It's important to remember that it is illegal for an assistant or an interpreter to influence the voter's vote, mark the ballot in any other way than asked, or to tell anyone how the voter voted. It's also illegal to receive payment or benefit for assisting a voter. Also, a person can't pay someone else to assist a voter. I can't get somebody compensation if they're gonna help you vote. For interpreters, if you can't speak English or communicate only with sign language, you may use an interpreter to help communicate with election officials. Even if the officials happen to speak the same language as you can still use an interpreter. Your interpreter can also help translate the words on the ballot for you. If you are deaf and don't have a sign language interpreter for election day, you can contact your official election office before and request assistance. And it's very important to know that your interpreter can be anyone other than your employer, an agent of your employer, or an officer or agent of your union. So accommodations and more on assistance. So all polling places must have at least one voting system that makes voting accessible in a private and independent manner to voters with disabilities. Voters with disabilities cannot be turned away from the polls because a poll worker thinks they do not have the capacity to vote. Voters who are physically unable to enter the polling place without assistance or are likely to get injured in the process can request to vote curbside. There should be signs at every polling location telling you that curbside voting is available, where to park, how to request that help. And it's also important to remember that all voters with limited English proficiency and voters with disabilities may obtain assistance from a person of their choice, once again, as long as it's not an employer, an agent of the employer, or somebody in their union. Thank you for translating this. So this very long paragraph is what, when you vote in person, the oath of assistance. And I'm going to read it slowly. I swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the voter I am assisting represented to me, they are eligible to receive assistance. I will not suggest by word, sign, or gesture how the voter should vote. I will prepare the voter's ballot as the voter directs. I did not pressure or coerce the voter into choosing me to provide assistance. I am not the voter's employer, an agent of the voter's employer, or an officer or agent of a labor union to which the voter belongs. I will not communicate information about how the voter has voted to another person. And I understand that if assistance is provided to a voter who is not eligible for assistance, the voter's ballot may not be counted. Lots of scary words, but that's just a big summation of everything I just explained. And make sure that, as a heads up, somebody will have to sign this if they're assisting you. I'm going to pause here. Are there questions? Yes.
지원하는데 올해도 우리는 어느 장소에서 한국말로 지원해주는 합니다.
So regarding the language accommodation, this year, 2023, are there Korean interpreters or assistants in particular voting poll locations? Are you aware?
Do you want to take that?
So for this year, 2023.
Okay, for this year,
Yeah.
2023.
I would like to know whether there are certain poll locations that they provide Korean language accommodations, like interpreters.
Yeah. Are there certain polling locations
providing
providing Korean accommodations? Thank you. And I have somebody here who's going to help answer this.
선생님 감사합니다. 근데 아시다시피 펜스 카운티에서는 English, Spanish, Vietnamese, Chinese 그것만 지원하는 거 아시죠? 그래서 no Koreans, right? 그런데 우리는 투표하는 것을 중요하게 생각하잖아요. 그래서 우리가 늘 하는 대로 정부가 도와주는 건 없어요. 그러나 우리는 우리 훈토스 시민권자들한테 한인의 사람들이 우리 사람들이 투표하기 위해서 돕는 거죠. 그러니까 국가에서 도와주는 건 없다는 거. 이제 우리가 어떻게 해서 사람들 투표하자고, 그러니까 여기 트리니 맨델호 커뮤니티 센터 아시죠? 거기에 오시면 우리가 주일날 오후에 거기에 앉아서 기다리고 있잖아요. 여러분 오시면 투표하시게. 그거밖에 없다는 거. 예.
조기 투표는 도움을 못 받죠.
조기 투표. 오케이. 그런데 제가 지금 Shirley, do you know in Trinidad Community Center there is Korean poll worker?
Also, what was this question?
He's asking,
For early voting, my understanding is that I'm not gonna get any language aid or anything for early voting, am I right?
That was his question?
Yes.
Okay, the question was, my understanding is that we are not going to get any language assistance during early voting. Okay. So, I was gonna say, Trinity Mendenhall, which is one of the poll sites near here, they reached out to Woody Juntos to see if we can help recruit Korean bilingual poll workers. So this is an opportunity to have one of the poll sites near here have language capabilities. We are confirming if it's for all the days and not just election days. But this is also an opportunity for you to step up if you are bilingual and get paid to help the community understand the balance. So if you are one of those people who can speak both and read Korean and English, come to us and we have a paid opportunity for you.
you know anyone who will Trinidad Community Center during the holiday days? No, early voting is really exciting.
정부에서 도움을 안 주고 홈토스에 한다는 건 굉장히 고마운데요. 본 투표에만 홈토스에 나서 일하는 거죠. 일요일에 일하려 있는데. 맞습니까?
그리고 이제 저분이 또 선거일에도 거기서 선거일에도 11월 7일에도 위클리 매뉴얼 관계센터에서 앞에서 우겨사는 보시면 기다렸다가 그리고 3일 한국에서도 11월 7일 거기 앞에서 기다렸다가 사는 보시면
Wait, we need to translate that.
Please repeat that in English.
On election day, and on election day, so we are going to have just assist our community members who come to cast their ballot. Okay, Trini Community Center and Korean Central Presbyterian Church on election day. We are going to help our people to cast their ballot.
And maybe more.
Maybe more.
Are there any other questions? Great, you can go to the next slide. All right, so what happens if you encounter an issue, it doesn't, oh, this question. Who can use curbside voting and what is curbside voting? So curbside voting, that's a great question, is when if you can't physically enter a polling location because you are disabled and you may be injured if you're entering the polling location. There are parking spots for curbside voters and a way to contact. There should be a sign on how to contact the election workers inside. And they will bring a polling machine outside to you so that you can vote privately and in your car. Awesome. Okay. So if you encounter an issue, you learned all about voting today, but you can't remember something, but it feels like something was wrong and you were turned away at the polling location. We do have an election protection hotline that you can call. There is an Asian language one. It's 888-247-8683. And when you call that number, you'll be directed to somebody who speaks the language that you speak. And then we have volunteers who are legal volunteers. They know the election code front and back. They will help you answer your questions and try to find a solution for you. It's also, oh, you can go to the one before. It's also important to remember that you do have a right to ask for a provisional ballot. And you can stay in line if you're already in line when polls close. The saying is, if you're in line before 7, stay in line. Remember that you're entitled to vote without fear or intimidation. And you can report any intimidation to that number that I just mentioned. There's also an English one, we call it 866-OUR-VOTE. And we handed out some information, it has that number on there. We can go that side. Important dates for the election, I mentioned a few of them. The voter registration deadline. Remember, you cannot vote unless you're registered. The deadline is October 10th. That's next Tuesday. So if you need to update your registration, you can do it today, you can do it tomorrow, you can do it over the weekend. But remember that the county needs to receive your registration by Tuesday. If you go home and you talk to your family members and you realize that they're not registered, they still have time. The deadline to apply to vote by mail is October 27th. Remember that you have to mail your application back to the county, and then they have to mail your ballot to you, and then you have to mail your ballot back. So I would fill that out as soon as possible. If you're voting in person, early voting runs October 23rd to November 3rd. That includes weekends. So you can vote on a weekend. It's the only time. Or you can vote on election day, November 7th from 7 to 7. If you really enjoyed this training, you want to help us get the word out, you want to be assisting your community members, you can sign up and help us with election protection and poll monitoring. Go to the next slide. So what is election protection? The Election Protection Coalition. We are nonpartisan organizations dedicated to helping Texans vote. That's why I'm here, because ACLU is a part of the Election Protection Coalition. Also, you may have heard of these organizations: Common Cause, the Lawyers Committee, the League of Women Voters. They created the guides that you have, the Legal Defense Fund, and Texas Civil Rights Project. We help run that hotline that I mentioned for people to call into, and then we have a poll monitor program that helps people at real time at polling sites. And you can sign up to be a poll monitor. You can talk to me, or if you use QR codes, you can put on that side. Oh, that's it. Come talk to me. That's an old QR code. But we have trainings on Zoom. We have trainings in person. But yeah, we would love any support that we can get. we work very closely with Uri Juntos. They will have poll monitors helping out in the community as well. And so if you want to join their team, let us know. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for asking great questions, for being here. I'm going to stick around if you have any other questions. And I think we've got a few more announcements, but my friends. Oh, you have a question.
ACLU는 선거보호연맹을 가지고 단체인데 그 선거 지금 말씀하신 분은 선거 관리위원회에서 나왔나요? 연맹에서 나왔죠?
So ACLU is part of a election coalition, right? And the speaker himself is Mary. Are you from the election management committee, or are you part of ACLU? ACLU, right?
Both.
Both.
Yes. It's part of my job as an ACLU worker to help with election protection. And so I work with staff from other organizations and we help run this program. Of course. Thank you. I think we have a few booths that you guys can check out. I'll let Stephen run up and talk about it a little more. But a lot of you guys visited the Harris County Library booth. And I'll pass it to you. You can talk about the other things.
All right, can we give Mary another round of applause? But thank you so much for sharing all this information. I hope that people here now feel a little more confident when they're going to vote, if you're eligible, this November and during early voting. And as Mary said, if you are not registered to vote, we have people in the back who can help register you if you're waving your hands in the back. And if you have any questions about how these machines work, we have them here on this side if you would like to actually try them out. Recently, they've been updated. It's all digital now, it's all touch screen. So why don't you try to cast the ballot today before you actually cast the ballot. And then the last thing is that we have Harris County Public Library here, who is creating the enhanced library card. It is a really wonderful free photo ID that you can get. And they're doing it right here on the spot. So you don't have to wait, they'll make it. But you cannot use that to go vote with. Not yet at least. Just don't use that. Yeah. But it is good for like a lot of other things. Yeah, of course.
I don't know if
It won't go all the way there.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shirley Wong. I am Harris County Clerk's Office Elections Department's Community Outreach Coordinator. So I work for Harris County Elections Department. Now, I have today brought our voting machines for you to try. And I would also want to do a demonstration first. These white ballot papers will be more than enough in this November election. It won't run out. I think the nearest polling location here is Trinity Manor Hall and the Korean Presbyterian Church. We did try to recruit Korean-speaking poll workers. I hope you may be one of them. So when you get there, you will present your ID to the check-in counter, photo ID that was shown by Mary, and then we'll give you a 6-digit number. For now, I will demonstrate on the machine on the left, which is a voting machine. It prints out the ballot of your choice. The machine on the right is a scan. It will record the image of your ballot. So I will do step one, printing of your your ballot first. I will demonstrate now. So suppose you check in with your driver's license. It will give you a 6-digit number. Now I enter the 6-digit number. Then you will have a piece of ballot paper. There is another going up. So you leave in your ballot paper to the direction of the arrow. It will go okay? And at this time, you can choose English, Espanol, Spanish, Vietnamese, or to vote in Chinese. All languages are available on this machine. I'm just coming up from India, like Korea. And then Korea, choose your language and begin voting. So this machine is for demonstration purposes, so we do not have the privacy in line, but in the real implementation, there were 2 lines here, and then just see the number of candidates which you are allowed to vote is always black and white and red. Sometimes you only allowed to make one choice. For example, the city hall. If this mayor's race, you only choose that. Allowed to choose one. So look at the one which is in red on the left panel. So you check your favorite candidate and go to next. Question 2, who do you want to be the U.S. representative in this one? Okay, I may choose and mayor, only choose one because it's a red number on the left panel. It tells you how many you're allowed to choose. In the November election, it's going to be Texas Constitution Amendment. It allows to vote for the Constitution Amendment. You can just vote yes or no.